Hey, how you doing this morning or this afternoon or whenever you watch this video? I have you hugged your antenna lately? And what I mean by that is, have you checked your antenna lately? I have a lot of antennas up, and I haven't really checked them in probably 3 months. And we've had some severe weather here in Florida, a lot of wind and rain, and I haven't checked them. And the other day, I did a video of one of Jeff's radios that had a shortwave band on it. It's like 9 megahertz to 15 megahertz. And I couldn't get anything on it, nothing. And so, at the same time, I switched over to Big Bertha, and I couldn't get anything on Big Bertha. And I thought, well, it's in the morning, and typically in that upper band, I don't get that till the late afternoon or evening. So maybe that's what the problem is. So I said to heck with it. And then a couple of days later, I was outside, and the antenna that I was trying to use was my 31-foot vertical antenna. I noticed that the wire, it's just a straight wire for the antenna part, was wrapped around the base of the antenna. Now this is a telescopic antenna that you normally use for temporary field use. So it looks like one of those big fishing poles that's made out of fiberglass, and you extend it, and it extends to 31 feet, and then you have a wire attached to the tip that goes all the way down the length of the antenna to a matching box, and then you connect it to that matching box, and then your coax cable connects to the other side of the matching box. Well, that was what I thought was a problem. I mean, there was still the antenna, it was still about 20 feet in the air, so it should have worked, so I still didn't understand. Well, yesterday morning, when I went out to repair it by taking it down, extending the last 2 sections again, retaping them, when I was dismounting it, it's attached to my chain link fence, I noticed the antenna wire was not even connected to the little matching box. And like I say, it's a piece of wire. The antenna's a piece of wire, kind of, well, you can't even see that, but it's real small diameter. And it connects to a terminal like this one on the matching box, matching transformer box, a balun. And so this is the type of connector that connects into it. It plugs in there. Now, what had happened is this connector was still in the socket, like that. But the wire was down on the ground. So basically there was no antenna at all. And the way these things work, they're solderless, and there's a little screw right here that screws into the side of the point of this thing. And so what you do is you loosen that screw, you take a piece of wire that's been stripped on the end, and you jam it down inside here until it goes in that little hole, and then you tighten this screw and that holds it in place. No soldering required. Well, I guess over the months, and this has been connected probably for 12 months, I guess over the months, with the temperature cycling, it worked its way out and was laying on the floor. I don't know how long it's been laying on the floor, because it could have been, I said floor, ground. It could have been down the ground for a lot longer than when the telescopic sections collapsed, and that's what I noticed. So it could have been disconnected for 6 or 8 months. And so I was like, and of course I was using Big Bertha during that time frame. I was like, well, band conditions are still no good, you know. And I just hadn't checked my antenna. So you need to go out and hug your antenna. And like I say, what I mean by hug, you know, I'd go out and check it, see if all the connections are still good, see if it's still even up in the air or anything else that has bad happened to it. And that might be your problem with your reception, be it VHF antenna, UHF antenna, or HF antenna. So check out your antennas, see if something as simple as the connector or the wire has fallen out of the connector. Now, I could use, and I should, I really should. These are notorious for that problem. I really should use a standard solder on connector, plug, soldered on plug, so that wouldn't happen. So it's partly my fault for using this and not checking it, because especially if you're up north or where it snows and stuff like this, temperature cycles on this will cause that screw to loosen and the wire to fall out, especially if the wire is heavy to any degree, heavy at all. Now the wire that's used for the antenna part of that radio is really light. I think it's probably 18 gauge wire, shielded 18 gauge wire. So it's not real heavy, but I had a big loop on it to keep the water from collecting up inside this connector. So go check out your antennas. Maybe that's your problem. Maybe you'll get better reception if you've checked out your antennas. And don't be a dummy like me and let those things go. Like I say, I have dozens of antennas up, and this happened to me before. I have my G5RV antenna that's is a dipole, 2 legs, and it's up on the peak of my 2nd story, which means it's really hard to get to. And I don't notice it that much. And one thing it will do, I've got a broomstick that I've got screwed to the peak of the roof, and then the antenna portion is up on the top of that broomstick, so it gets it away from the roof. Well, I've had that broomstick, just plain wooden, it's not painted or anything, I've had that rot and break in the storm, because the 2 legs of that antenna are like 50 feet, a little less than 50 feet. So there's a lot of weight on that broomstick to hold that thing up, plus the coax cable. And I've had to get my neighbor to get on the roof and fix that for me a couple of times. So check your antennas. Maybe that's why your reception is worse than it could be, although HF shortwave bands pretty much in the toilet right now, except for exceptions. Right now the solar flux is dropped back down to less than 70. We did have that period where the solar flux was high 70s, 80s. Of course, we want it above 100, but the prediction is it won't go above 100 for another couple of years on that 11-year cycle. So that's it. If you enjoyed the show, please give me a thumbs up. If you have anything that you want me to discuss, if you have a radio that I've done before and you want me to bring you up to speed on how it's doing or whatever, Big Bertha here, of course. There's good and bad reviews of the Grundig 750. And I think that's because 2 things. One is, since the later models come from China, I believe, and the quality control on China radios is not that good. Some people are getting a bad radio. The one I have, which is upstairs, was kind of just before that period, maybe just after. But it was a good radio, and it has been a good radio. It's worked fine, but other people have reported, well, I got one of those and it ain't so good. And that's probably the quality control problem. So be careful when you buy radios now. A lot of them are manufactured in China or some country like that, and the quality control is not that good. C. Crane usually does a pretty good job of screening their radios before they sell them. But because of that, C. Crane radios are typically 25% higher in cost. The other option is to get your radio from a place like Amazon. Easy return. Easy return. You put it back in a box, they shipped it to you. You can download a shipping label where they pay for the return shipping. You take it to UPS. By the time you get back home, you've gotten a credit on your account for that radio. Anyway, I've babbled enough. Again, if you have something like Big Bertha or the 750 or any other radio you'd like me to go back and do a special test or something, just let me know. Have a great day. Bye-bye.